Hi guys, I am Kenya and welcome back to my YouTube channel. These are about 10 questions that you will be asked for sure if you go on a job interview. Now, I've been on lots of job interviews for property management, leasing agent, leasing manager, just positions in property management, period. And these are the questions that they ask you that I can remember, most definitely remember that they asked me during the interview. So this is my paper with my notes because I like to be prepared. So if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my notes, okay? So the first thing that they most likely will ask you is, what are your duties and responsibilities at your current position? And just make sure you have an answer for that question. Just, let them know what your duties are. They're also going to ask you, what software do you currently use at your position? I know for residential property management, we use like Yardi, something called Entrata, we use something called Blue Moon. And then there's other software programs that I just don't use at my company. Other companies probably use them, but I just don't. And commercial real estate, they have their own software they use for commercial real estate. So just be familiar with some of the types of software that is used in residential real estate, if that's what you're going for, or if you're going into property management for commercial real estate, what software is used for that. And I forget what commercial real estate their software is called. There's a lot of different softwares. So also, they're going to ask you, what are your strengths? So be prepared to tell them what your strengths are. Just whatever you can think of what your strengths are. Have at least 2 different strengths that you can tell them off the bat. Also, they're going to ask you, what type of property do you work at? You can say, I work at a luxury high-rise, I work at an apartment community, or I work with, regular garden apartments, or just I manage 3 just regular apartment buildings that maybe they're just not luxury, just 3 apartment buildings. Sometimes people manage, multiple buildings. Or if you manage something in commercial real estate, you could say I manage a building that is 10 stories high, 5 floors are for one company, 2 floors are for this company. On the bottom floor we have, retail space. There's a Starbucks and a shoe store and a Ferragamo store down there. You basically just let them know what kind of properties that you manage. And then of course if it's residential, they will ask you, how many units is it? Meaning like how many apartments? Is it 700, 30, 10, 100? So you let them know. And for commercial units, I'm unfamiliar with commercial, so I'm not sure exactly like if they would ask you like how many commercial spaces do you manage, who knows, I don't know. Also, they're going to ask you how many apartments on your property are vacant. So that will tell a lot about you as a property manager or a leasing agent. Even though leasing agents really don't have too much control over that, but if you're a property manager, that will let them know how aggressive you are at closing deals. So if you have 100 units and 30% are empty, they're going to be like, okay, next. So be prepared. Don't lie if you're on an interview and they ask you how many units are vacant, because someone can definitely call your company your property as soon as you leave the interview and just ask those questions. Hey, I work for the Kenya Development Group, and we're just trying to get a market survey. Do you mind answering some questions for us? And then they will just spill all your tea. So I don't suggest lying, but if you have a lot of vacants, make sure you have a reason for it. We're doing construction, or something, like, even though you could still rent out apartments under construction, but have a reason why you have so many vacancies, okay? Or you could be like, if you have say 10 vacancies and you have like 50 units, you could say, but I have 4 applications that are pending, so hopefully those go through. Like, just have something. If you can't think of anything, just be quiet, don't even say anything. You might ruin yourself. Also, they'll ask you like, how many people do you work with? Like, are there leasing agents under you? And if you are a leasing agent, they're going to ask you like, how many other leasing agents work with you? How many maintenance men work on the property? Is there a property manager? Is there an assistant property manager? They're just going to ask you, just those basic questions. And as far as a property manager would be me, if they ask me that, I guess they want to know like how many people you can manage, at a time, and like if you're, just try to fill you out to see how good you would be at the position. And then also we'll ask you like, what incident has happened at your workplace, your property, that was different, and how did you handle it? That was difficult, sorry, and how would you handle it? So you would just think of a scenario you had. Like for me, I had a racial profiling situation, which I made a whole video on, about a lady coming to the office basically saying that these black people and Latinos were drug dealers when they really weren't. That was a difficult position for me to be in, but I feel like I did handle it well. So, just give like a scenario that happens, at your workplace. Even if you're just a leasing agent, it doesn't matter. Not just a leasing agent, because leasing agents are important as well. And they are vital to renting, and leasing the property and making the developer money. So that's that. And they'll ask like, why are you looking to leave your current position? Because, that's just a question that they'll ask. And you think of something clever. Don't think of something petty like, I just want to change. Like, I mean, that could be cool and all, but like, how reliable are you if they keep hiring, if they hire everybody who says they just want to change? And then what if they get bored, you get bored at their position after 6 months, and then you leave it, and they got to do the whole hiring and training process over again. So just have like a valid, good reason. I'm looking for growth, I'm looking for somewhere where it's closer to home, where I work now, it's really far, traffic is, a bitch. Well, don't say bitch on your interview. Now, if you say that on your interview, shame on you. They're going to ask you what salary you're looking to receive. So you can just say, something within a ballpark. But make sure you research the salaries for whatever position, property management position it is in your area. Because different parts of the country, the salary varies. Of course, in New York City, property managers are making like 6 figures. California, certain areas, Texas, they're really booming with property management, so the salaries may be a little high. I won't say 6 figures, but you can make a cute coin. DC, Baltimore, Chicago. But if you're like in an area, like a small town that is really, not that well known, you may not get like a big salary. So just keep that in mind, and like give them like so you would say something like from 75, around a range of 75,000-ish, to 82,000, And of course, if you're living in a small town, you would say, what the salary is for that town. But make sure you look up the average salary. You can even go on Indeed.com and find out the average salaries for, property management, leasing agent positions in that area. If you get what I'm saying. Assistant property manager positions. Just do your research before you go on an interview. Oh, no, also want to know, like, what do you tell prospective tenants or residents, whatever you want to call them? The term is interchangeably used, tenants and residents, to close a deal at your current position. So like, what would you do to close a deal? Like, are you offering any concessions? So a concession would be like a special. Like if you sign a 12-month lease, you will get the 13th month free. At this current time, instead of our usual 1 month rent for the security deposit, we're just doing $500. Or we're offering tablets, Samsung tablets, or iPads. Like, what kind of specials are you offering to try to close a deal? Are you going to, like, do you waive application fees? Like for me, sometimes if I really need to get an apartment rented and I know somebody's interested, but like the coins is a little tight, I'll be like, you know what, fill out the application now, I'll waive the application fees, And they'll be like, hey, sure, waive it. Or, I can size people up and just see, like, okay, or I'll be like $200 for the security deposit, or a half month's rent for the security deposit. It's different for everybody. So if you're property management, or if you're a property manager now, make sure you write down, especially as you tell people when they come in, so that you're not like, what did I tell you? Like, it's kind of weird. But they're gonna want to know like how you close your deals. And it's so funny. I'm gonna tell you, this is like so funny. I think this is how I closed a deal last week. I swear. Was it last week or was it this week? Last week. So a girl comes in. I'm like, hi, I'm Kenya. Can you fill out this little card? We have like these little cards, like that people put their information on it, and we keep it for our records. Long story short, I said my name is Kenya, and she was like, oh my gosh, I'm from Kenya. And then she was like, but I'm gonna be looking around at other places. I really think that she came back because my name was Kenya and it was like sort of nostalgic. She's from Kenya, but also because I was really nice to her as well and we had a really good conversation. So also learn the art of conversation if you're going to work in this industry that if you're going to work in an industry that requires sales and closing deals, you must learn the art of conversation, how to how to converse with people. Make sure you're using the correct terms when you're talking to people in the public. Like, I would say conversate to my friends, but while I'm at work, I would say converse. So that's that. And I'll talk about the art of conversation another time. Yeah, because that's really important. That can make or break you as a leasing agent or, just a property manager. I don't think anyone would become a property manager if they hadn't successfully went through the interview and successfully been a leasing agent at one time, in their lives. So I hope that these tips were helpful. If you are someone who works in HR, you work in a property management field and you interview people and you have some additional questions that will be asked, you just put them in the comment section because I want to know so I could be well prepared and equipped for my next few interviews, if you know what I'm saying. And those that are watching the video will want to know the same thing. And that's it. So with that being said, I want to thank you for coming and kick it with me today. I want to thank you for clicking on my video today because you did not have to. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe button and I'm going to see you guys in my next YouTube video. Toodles.